Okay, I have just started the live stream on YouTube because 400 and few more, like I think 410 people registered for this, and we have space only for 100. So those who come after 100, they will not be able to join. So for them, I'm starting this live cast of the session
Yeah.
on YouTube. Okay, so as you can hear that. Okay, so that's done. And now I'm back to the screen. We have room full, so we have 100 people total. No, so all the other people who would be, joining from now, they have to go to YouTube for that. We have the room full now. Okay, so let's start. Uh, on behalf of the Indian Institute of Business Psychology, I, Vijay Pandey, welcome you all. This is basically first in the series of expert talks, in which what we will be doing is that we will be contacting and approaching people who have started something indigenously, and then it became popular later on. And uh, we have Professor Rao with us today, who started 360-degree assessment. It was interesting, like I learned it quite late, that 360-degree assessment, what we have heard, it was started here, and it was started by our gurus of gurus, uh, Professor Rao and late Professor Parikh. So Professor Rao is instrumental. He's actually the first person to start this, the method of that, and we will get through this even in detail. So on behalf of the entire IIBP team, I welcome you, sir. We are really glad to have you here, and
Thank you.
I'm really touched with this kind of gesture of yours and kindness of being in the platform. Uh, Thank you very much. Uh, I think all of you know about Professor Rao. Those uh, who might have been hearing the name for the first time, he is a person who is called as father of HRD, and it is not my word; it is the word of a magazine which basically published a title as father of HRD in India. He was professor of in IM Indore, and then he
Ahmedabad.
has taught. Sorry,
Ahmedabad.
I am Ahmedabad, and I got slipped because I taught in Indore. So, and he has taught into many prestigious management institute. He has started many interventions which were like extremely useful, including 360. So since this session is about 360-degree feedback, we would like to start from a poll about 360-degree. And from there, I will hand you over to Professor Rao. So I'm starting the poll. It will be on your screen, and it will be live for a minute. So please answer these two questions. First is about what has been your experience with 360-degree feedback, and then did you find it useful? I will share the result once the poll is completed. Okay, so I'm ending the poll now in 2 seconds, and I'll share with you the result. Uh, Share result. So this is the result of the poll. Among this group of participants, uh, 26 plus 27 plus 25. So that's the percentage of people who have used it. Almost half of them have not used it. So, sir, this is an important information. Maybe we need to elaborate little on the introduction of how you conceptualized it, what it is, and then how to use it better. Because you know, they have not used it and they come here, it means that they have an interest in that. And 29% said that they found it useful a lot. 20% said that they found it somewhat useful. So, of almost half of those who have used it, they found it useful.
Very, very interesting kind of data.
Yeah.
Not sure if it was useful or not.
Yeah.
About 25 of the candidates seem to have gone through this.
And this is
54.
interesting. Only 1% say that they have not found it, not sure if it was useful. So those who have really used it, they have found it useful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid we
So
are listening some background noises, so we probably have
yeah,
to
I'll control that and I'll make sure that
move
it
on.
doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is very useful, very interesting. Let me just take a pic
Thank
of.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Can I
Okay,
begin?
sir.
May I begin?
Sure. Yeah. So for participants, please, you can close the screen of poll on your system. And now over to Professor Rao.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Vijay, for inviting me. It's a great, a very pleasant surprise for me when you asked me to talk on this particular topic of 360-degree feedback. Because I must confess, last 3-4 years, I've been struggling to uh, start a workshop. We used to run a whole number of workshops. I think by between 1996 and 96 when I started TVRLS, and in 2016, the first 20 years we must have run about 500 and odd workshops and covered about 25,000 executives across the country, and some of the CEOs, including Kumar Birla, uh, Titan Bhaskar, and a whole lot of other people. Not Murthy himself, but some of his team in Infosys, where they are using their own tool and things like that. I think we have worked with so many companies and so on. And we used to run public programs. But over a period of time, we stopped the public programs for no rhyme or reason. The last 5 years I've been wanting, but it was not happening. Once or twice when I announced we didn't have enough of candidates, maybe we didn't market it properly. So after 5 years of gap, and somebody asks me to talk, of course, independently for companies we were doing, like we were doing every year, almost covering about 500 people in L&T and such other kind of companies. And things. So very nice of you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share, and then, if necessary, maybe restart with the same rigor with which we have started.
Yeah, I'm sure, sir, your session today will restart this movement and this conversation on that serious conversation, definitely.
Yeah, very nice of you. For those of you, since 54 of you said there is, we didn't have an experience, I would want to explain. 360-degree feedback is a term which some Americans have used, which only means anonymous feedback obtained, anonymous. The person who gives you feedback is not known to you. You seek feedback and you get the feedback on a tool anonymously, and the feedback from multiple sources. Normally, people who are, if you are an employee, your senior or your boss, all the juniors who report to you directly, and your internal customers or colleagues who keep interacting with you. And if there are some external customers, they all give you anonymously on a tool, on a questionnaire, their feedback, the way they have experienced you. And these are collected by an agency or an agent who is your facilitator. And the agent tabulates these anonymous data. He doesn't give you individually. I mean, there are people who violate these rules. I'll come back to how these rules are violated. Because the agent who collects the feedback data on each question or the questionnaire collects and presents you the averages, standard deviations, and the frequency with which a particular item, if you use a quantitative scale. For example, one of the items in our questionnaire is, does this person share the vision of the company with you? Does he articulate the vision of his department? Or does she articulate the vision of the department? Does this person keep in touch with technological developments in his or her own kind of a field? Suppose juniors say, any number of juniors can respond, seniors can respond. Overall, you get an average, let's say on a, we use in the beginning a 7-point scale. On a 7-point scale, you will get an average of, let us say, 5.5, which indicates that you are sharing the vision. And the frequency distribution can also indicate 2 out of the 15 people have said that you share the vision. They rated you 7 out of 7. 3 people have said you don't at all share the vision, and so on. And then this is the standard deviation and things like that. So the mean is indicative of your. I mean, that's a mean feedback, but actually it is not the mean which we focus on. We focus on the variation. The more variation you get, the more we say need for you to make a uniform impact. You have not made a uniform impact. Then open-ended questions, which will tell you what are the 3 strengths of the person. You can also ask 1 strength, you can ask 2 strengths, but normally you don't ask for more than 3. What are the 3 strong points of the person? What are 3 areas where the person needs to improve? So a number of people can say, let's say if 13 people answered, 7, 8 of them can say the strength of this person is he's technically very sound. Weakness of the person is he's short-tempered. Strength is he is hardworking. Anything is possible depending upon the impact you have made. So in sum, 360-degree feedback is a summarized feedback that you get from people who interact with you, collected anonymously, tabulated, and communicated to you in such a way that you will not know who are the people. Not only you will not know, the person who collects the feedback also does not know who said what. The person, I mean, if it is computerized, the person has no way of knowing. Only in some exceptional cases, the person who collects the feedback can say, like if you have only one boss and you ask that boss to give you feedback, the person who collects, no, he had only one boss, only one person has said, so this is boss feedback. But he is not likely to give you this feedback as boss feedback because he mixes the boss feedback with colleagues feedback, or if you have only one colleagues feedback with juniors feedback, to make sure that you will not try to identify. But we have come across many interesting cases where because the person has to tick mark whether you are his junior, subordinate, or colleague, or boss. Now suppose you have 2 bosses and you have given to both the bosses. It's quite possible that the person who received the communication gets 3 bosses answering. That means somebody didn't want to reveal the identity, so he answered the questionnaire, but instead of maybe a junior tick marked as I'm his boss, it may be colleague. So you have no way of knowing if somebody who answers this, let's say, gives only in terms of this. But if the person wrongly identifies, you may ask the question, what is the guarantee that he gives correct kind of answers? Because he is not required to anyway send the questionnaire. There is no compulsion. There is no way of knowing who said, how many of you have responded and so on. These are some details. This is called 360. Americans called it because the focus is you, your boss gives top, your colleagues give, your juniors give. So somebody in USA called it as 360-degree feedback. This happened in the year 1992. But I say that this is our invention without this name. That is where I want to go back to the influences I had. How did I think of it? The first program I ran was in IIM Ahmedabad in 1986. I ran a program called Leadership Styles and Organizational Effectiveness. This is the title which I have run the program. And this program was announced 3 months in advance. Normally, IIM Ahmedabad programs those days used to be announced about a month in advance, 6 weeks in advance. But this program required announcing 3 months in advance because this program required every candidate to register, and along with registration, send us the names of about 10 to 15 people. We didn't put any limit at that time. We said all those, but approximately 10 to 15 people who are working very closely with you in the last 4 to 5 years. They could be from your juniors, they could be from your colleagues, they could be people who supervise you, your bosses and so on. You have to give us the names and addresses of all these people. And you will also write a letter to all of them to say, I am Ahmedabad is conducting this program called Leadership Styles and Organizational Effectiveness. I have given you a name as a referee, as an assessor. They will send you a set of questionnaires inquiring about me. Please answer those questionnaires and send it to IIM Ahmedabad. You are not required to write your name anywhere. No candidate who assesses you is required, but they will also supply you a self-addressed envelope. Only my name will be written in the envelope. So IIM Ahmedabad collects all assessments they receive on my name. They tabulate it. They give me the average and standard deviations on the questionnaire so that I get an opportunity to know what impact I have made on people around me. It's not necessary to make a uniform impact, but I'll get to know. This feedback will help me to correct myself if there are things I'm not doing right, and to continue to do things that I'm doing right. And maybe if there are things which I could do better and use my strengths, I can use this. So this is the purpose. I want your help. So the person candidates writes a letter. We receive copies of that letter to us. Then we send a letter to each assessor. So-and-so has given your name. We're enclosing an envelope with his name printed and our address printed. So it used to be sent to Leadership Styles Program Coordinator, Professor T.V. Rao, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And on the top of the envelope is written name of the person. Like one K.L. Chugh attended, he was one of the participants in the first program. So there were 15, 20, K.L. Chugh, 20 people answered him. At the time, he was managing director of Bhadrachalam paper boats. Then there was one Gati, Mahendra Agarwal attended, and one Anil Sisdev, whom most of you would know. At the time, he was with Aisha. He attended. Many top-level people attended our program. So we would receive that. And once we receive, we tabulate all of it. Now, I'll tell you something about these questionnaires and all that. We tabulate this and we call these people for a 3-day workshop. Those days it was 3 days. Later on, many things were done. But I still think 3 days is a minimum workshop that is required to give the feedback. If you give feedback without any preparation, it can have disastrous kind of consequences. That is why feedback is a sensitive matter. And therefore, before you give feedback, you have to prepare the individual for the feedback. So the day candidate comes for the program, we explain to the individual the importance of the variables. For example, one of the tools I have used is leadership styles. My colleague Khandawala used another questionnaire called as management styles. His questionnaire dealt with the entire management as a team. My questionnaire dealt with individuals. And we also developed a climate questionnaire. My colleague JP Singh used decision-making styles inventory and so on. So you use different tools. What is the way in which this person takes decisions? There are a whole lot of 10 items, etc., etc. So we get all of it. One full day is spent on the individuals giving their own responses, self-assessment, and it is discussed. Importance of the variable is discussed. If delegation is a variable, under what circumstances delegation is important, and how much of a score you should get on this, etc., etc. So day one is to understand the questionnaire, and day two is we give feedback when they are prepared, how to interpret the feedback and all of it. Day three is to prepare action plans. You have learned from this feedback what are the strengths you want to use and leverage. What are the weak areas? Just pick up 2 or 3 strong points and how do you want to improve, work on them, leverage to your own goodness. Or 2 or 3 weak points, how do you want to, what is your action plan? They not only share, we create opportunities. For example, somebody may be rated as not very good in meeting management. This person wastes the time of everyone. He calls for meetings and he is not able to actually give opportunity. Suppose your meeting management is perceived as not all that good. So we create a situation where we give feedback to some of the people. This is the feedback that you got. Now here is a meeting. You manage the meeting for about 45 minutes and try and see how you can experiment with different behavior. They said you don't allow them to talk. Now for a change in this meeting, you make sure that you talk the lowest possible and try and see what is the way to experiment. The third day is meant to practice, experiment some of the programs. This was the first program we have run in the year 1986. But how did I do this? And later Americans called it 360. Once you know America brands something, India follows this. The way I think our basmati rice has become famous after Americans branded it, or maybe our uh, uh, I mean, so many things from India. Yoga is now
Yoga, yes.
becoming famous because we need American brand. Otherwise, we don't. And my colleagues, two of my colleagues, Professor Prahlad, he discovered this pretty soon. After he joined IIM, IIM sent him to Harvard. He came back and he felt he has such a talent. India probably does not recognize, and he preferred to go to uh, Michigan University. And you know, he became world's #1 management guru. So is Vijay Govindarajan. So many Indians, I think, unless they go to other places and they import their talent back to India, we don't seem to recognize. That is how I think when somebody already names 360, I have for many years, 5 years before that, 1986 to 92, I was doing this program under the title Leadership Styles and Organizational Effectiveness. But it's too long a name. It was never meant to be branded. It was meant to be a development kind of a program. Now, if I had to trace back the history, I trace 4 sources. First source that has impacted me. I mean, it's a gradual thing. I've not thought of 360 by birth. It evolved. Number 1 source for this evolution is what Dr. Parikh and I had done in the city of Delhi. 1969, Dr. Uday Parikh offered me to work with him as an assistant research officer in an ICMR project. You will keep hearing ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. That was a project. I joined Uday. Uday just returned from the University of North Carolina, and both of us joined, were working in National Institute of Health Administration and Education in Greater Kailash, which is now known as National Institute of Health and Family Welfare. Those days it was NIHAI. And this project was titled as Motivation Training for Mental Health. Most of the primary school children spend a large part of their school time with the single teacher classrooms. If you look at the 4th and 5th grade child, he or she is spending almost about 60 to 70% of his school life with one teacher. So the teacher seems to have a lot more impact on the child than even the parents, because most of the days the child is in the school. So the project was, can we study the classroom behavior of teachers and see the impact on the children? And there was a technique that was available from one Ned A. Flanders in USA. Uday got this, this particular tool. It's a very simple technique. Now it appears commonsensical. When you observe a teacher in the classroom, you can keep noting various behaviors, observable behaviors. What is it the teacher is doing? Normally, teacher is lecturing. So this is one behavior, lecturing or talking to the students, explaining something. Number 2, the teacher is asking questions. Number 3, the teacher is accepting the feeling. They say, children, today you all seem to be in a very great mood. Should we go and play? So understand the feelings, accept the feelings, or reprimanding, or criticizing, or building on the ideas of the student. Acha beta, shabash, aur bolo, aur kya hai, and goes on, building on. So there are 7 categories of behavior of the teacher in a classroom. These 7 categories are further classified into directive behavior. Lecturing is directive, does not give any freedom for the child. Reprimanding is directive. Directing is directive. But asking questions is non-directive because it leaves the freedom to the child. Accepting feelings is non-directive. Building on the ideas is non-directive, and so on. So you classify the classroom behavior into directive behavior, non-directive behavior, student talk into teacher-initiated student talk, and the student self-initiated student talk, and there can be silence and confusion. So there is a 10 category observation. So we use it to sit in the class, at the back of the class, in a classroom of a 4th standard or 5th standard, and keep on noting down the behavior of the teacher every 3-second period. Now it is, you need to memorize, because now suppose you find 4, 4, 4, 4 occurring for about 20 times, but that means every 3 seconds means for almost 1 minute, the teacher is asking questions. After that, you will find 5, 5, 5 reprimanding. After that, you find 3, 3, 3 accepting the ideas or lecturing and so on. So you can recreate the entire classroom behavior using this interaction analysis technique. But what we did was, at the end of the class, you observe for 1 hour, then you go to another classroom, then 2 or 3 days later you come back another hour, and 2 or 3 days you come back. Across a period of about 3 to 4 days, you observe at different points of time, and you note down for 4 to 5 hours. You can reconstruct the teacher, and you can say, is this teacher using more directive behavior? Most of the time, this teacher is criticizing, reprimanding, lecturing, directive behavior, or non-directive behavior, asking questions, building on the ideas, etc., etc. I think this is what we studied. 50 primary school teachers across New Delhi and Delhi we studied. And we also studied the impact on the mental health of the students, whether the level to which the students like going to school. We developed a pre-adolescent adjustment inventory. We developed an initiative questionnaire. We developed a picture frustration test, reactions to frustration. We developed sociometric scale. We developed a number of scales. And we tried to correlate, and we discovered directive teachers tend to have children who take less initiative and who don't like going to school. And we discovered non-directive teachers have more initiative taking children, although their academic achievement was not as high. Very interesting kind of findings. And we called a group of 20 of these teachers for a training program. All that we did in training program, this is what has impacted me quite a bit. 20 teachers for a 3 or 4 day program, only in the morning time they used it to, and we taught them this technique. And at the end of the 3 days of learning this technique, where they will go and observe each other, they all observed, they mastered the technique of classifying classroom behavior, classifying into directive, non-directive teachers. Then we asked them, now you assess yourself. Are you directive? What is the percentage to which you are directive? What is the percentage to your non-directive? We use terms called ID ratios, indirect, direct kind of ratios and so on. So some of the teachers who actually in our observation, we already had the observations and we called them to the classroom. Some of the teachers whom we assessed as indirective turned out to be more directive in terms of their own kind of self-assessment. Some of the teachers whom we assessed as directive turned out to be non-directive. In 30% of the cases, they guess about what their style and what we observed was correct. But in the remaining cases, what they observed was not in tune with what we observed. That means 60 to 70% of the teachers don't have the correct idea whether they are directive or non-directive. Self-perceptions may not tally with objective kind of observations. And when we gave them feedback, this is the most interesting part of it. We told them, you saw us sit in your class, we observed your behavior, this is what we found. It was, for many of them, an utter surprise. 6 months later, we went back and observed their behavior in the classroom, and we found many cases there was a change in behavior. You can say you are there as an observer. In order to please you, they are now behaving more in an indirect way. Doesn't matter. If they could remember for 6 months that we stand for indirect behavior and they exhibited it, that means change has occurred. I mean, that is the way we have concluded. It doesn't matter in our presence or absence. The fact that you have changed indicated that simple art of giving feedback brought in change. This is the most interesting kind, first most interesting impact that I have had, which I started thinking what a beautiful thing it is to help people observe and give a behavior, give them feedback. It changes people. It can build them to better kind of a direction and so on. This particular thing was written in a book called Changing Teacher Behavior Through Feedback, which we published 30 years later. We didn't publish it at the time. It's an ICMR project, Motivation Training for Mental Health. Now, 1973, I joined IIM. And one of the things I was doing is I started a course called Laboratory in Entrepreneurial Motivation. A large part of entrepreneurial motivation lab, which is based on David McClelland's models, was giving TAT stories and giving feedback to the students about assess your own level of achievement motivation, or give 5OB and assess what is the extent to which you have wanted inclusion, wanted control, expressive control, what are the implications, what will be the important qualities. Get them to play a ring toss game and give them a feedback about it. Or use, those days we used POI, personal orientation, inventory, locus of control, many tests we used to use. This is a laboratory where tests were given and the students were given feedback. The interesting thing is in all these tests, you give a test and the student takes the test and you give him feedback on that. The supplier of information is the student himself, and we give feedback. And I started using it many of the management programs, and managers at the end of it would say, Professor Rao, it is wonderful. Now I know my 5OB profile. Now I know that my internality is a little slightly less. I should be a little more, or my interpersonal trust is a little low, or on the higher side, I am gullible and I need to change. So people use it to say all of it. But also at the end of it, some of the managers use it to tell me, Professor Rao, it is a wonderful experience. But sir, I only wish, this is my response as you are interpreting to me. You are giving a new label. How I wish you could get this collected from other people who observe me. If those people who interact with me, I think I am sociable, but do my friends think I am sociable? Do my juniors think I am sociable? What is their expectations? So this is almost for 4 or 5 years, I was getting this feedback from people that you are giving me a test, but can you also help me to collect what other people think of me? So there is a desire on the part of the people to know what other people think. So this was working very much in my mind. So I was wanting to look for a mechanism by which I can collect feedback from others and communicate this to people so that they can change their behavior. This was the time, I think, when I evaluated the entrepreneurship development programs in Gujarat, where we found behavioral science makes a difference in producing more entrepreneurs. I was giving a seminar in Indian International Center. This is the year 1975. And McClelland happened to visit India. Manohar Natkarni, who worked with him, and Uday, who also knew him very well, both of them brought McClelland to my class. And McClelland sat in my class, listened to my work. At the end of it, he asked me that, would you be interested in coming to Harvard and work with me I'm bringing out a new scale called Psychosocial Maturity Scale. Will you adopt it for India? I readily agreed. Who would want to, if he is going to pay my fare and also give me 3 months of salary there at Harvard, who would not want to go? In fact, that was my first trip to US. I went to US. The Psychosocial Maturity Scale is a very interesting scale. This was being done by one Abigail Stewart, who now lives in the University of Michigan. She heads the Department of Psychology at University of Michigan. Those days she was at Wesleyan University in Middletown. She was doing her PhD she finished her PhD and teaching at Wesleyan. She developed this tool, which reference to which you will find in Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence. Large extent, I understand Daniel Goleman borrowed from this particular concept. Psychosocial maturity is beyond achievement motivation, affiliation motivation. It is emotional stability that gives you. The psychosocial maturity scale used the same T80 stories. I carried a lot of Indian manager stories from here. And it looks at not achievement, but the maturity levels in terms of the Ericksonian categories of Freudian psychoanalysis. I won't go into the details of psychoanalysis part of it. I derived from it a leadership style model, because this is what I found in the T80 stories. They depicted leader as a paternalistic leader, or as a critical leader, or as a self-dispensing leader, a developmental leader. 3 leadership styles I identified while working with McClelland on this. When I came back home, I developed a leadership styles tool. If you believe the best way to manage your juniors is by acting like their father figure. I mean, many of us will say, I think if you want to get the best of your juniors, treat them like your own children. This is one philosophy. Another leader will say, if you want to get the best of your people, keep supervising them. Never take them for granted. Be critical. Be forthright. So that is the critical style, theory X style. Our third leadership style, which I learned a lot from Sarah Weiss, Ravi Mathai, with whom I was working in those days, Uday Parikh and I used to be full of praise for Ravi's style. 7 years after he worked as director, he stepped aside and he gave opportunity for others, created many things and started working like an ordinary professor. We called them as self-dispensing style. So it fitted well with my McClelland's study of psychosocial maturity. High level of maturity is you create a style in which you work towards yourself not being needed. Build an organization to a level where you are not needed. That is the highest maturity level. Be a father figure, paternalistic, that one level lower. Be a critical person, start with suspicion, keep monitoring, controlling. These three leadership styles I picked up from psychosocial maturity and developed a tool and used the tool in a big way. At the time, those days, we had a project in Uttar Pradesh. We were working in Amethi, Kureba, 2 primary health centers, 3 districts like Sultanpur district, Pratapgarh, Raebareli districts. We had a large number of medical officers. We used to call for training and I would administer this leadership styles inventory. And quite a few of them turned out to be critical leaders. Then we tell them, if you are a critical leader, you can't manage your staff well. If you are a development leader, maybe you can. But they would argue with me, in UP, critical leadership only works. Developmental leadership will only work in Ahmedabad, not in UP. But there are always 1 or 2 exceptions who say, you are very right, theoretically I want to do it. But sir, you asked me, how about asking my juniors what they think of my leadership style? So this is the second influence. I developed a leadership style questionnaire. And then the fourth most important influence, I'm sure most of you know TGroup Training. I joined ISAPS in the year 1974. ISAPS is a body parallel to NTL. Uday Parikh, Somnath Chattopadhyaya, Gaurango Chattopadhyaya, Prayag Mehta, Manohar Nadkarni, all of them got trained in USA with NTL labs, and then they came to India and they started Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science. It is based on TGroup training. The theory of TGroup training is most people don't tell you on the face of it whatever they think of you. They only tell you things to please you. If you want to bring change in yourself, discover your true self. The best way to discover your true self is strangers can be more frank to you. Go for a TGroup training, which is run by, in those days, ISAPS, NTL. I think Kurt Levin had done a lot of work on this. So go for TGroup training. So I had, of course, I had in Neha itself my experience of TGroup training. We had one Suresh Srivastava who used to teach at IIM Calcutta. Later at Case Western University, he came and conducted a program for us. Many people conducted, I was exposed to this. So I became a member of ISAPS and started doing at IIM and outside the TGroup training. In TGroup training, typically about 10, 15 people, normally about 7, 8, 9 people come and a facilitator works with them for 1 full week. These are strangers. The facilitator works as a mirror. And then people will keep on telling, first day, of course, they don't know what to do. They keep asking the facilitator. Facilitator says, do you do everything by only by checking with somebody like me? I don't know what you want to do. You are here. I have nothing to do with it. You tell me what you want to do. And so on and so forth. By the end of the day, they have created impressions. Second day, they started sharing. By third day, they started experimenting. By the end of 5 or 6 day lab, people are different. They have claimed, I've discovered a new part of me. I didn't know that whatever I am saying hurts people, because people started telling me that I am very abrasive. I never realized, I always thought I am doing good for them. Very nice that these people told me. I found sea change in people. Of course, we also found people who told, this fellow has gone to ISAP's program, he has gone from back to us. Earlier, he would never question us. Now he's questioning everything, and so on and so forth. He has become more short-tempered. He has become more sensitive. But there were good things that were observed. Then it occurred to me that should you, I mean, you are interacting day in and day out with people. You have your seniors, you have your juniors, you have your colleagues. They are giving feedback, your performance appraisals, review discussions, all this is going on. But you don't seem to trust them. Why are you not trusting? Do you need to go for a 1 week lab or somewhere organized in Goa or in Agra or in Jaipur, sit with strangers and spend enormous amounts of money? Because 5-star hotel, you have to spend that money to discover what your day in and day out, your juniors and your, why can't we do this? Now, 4 things. Teachers Feedback helped them change. Questionnaire feedback only on self-assessment, I think, made some difference. Leadership styles, people started asking, can you get feedback? T-group training has indicated. That is where I think after I returned, I went for a couple of years to XLR. I'm more convinced. I came back to say, I'm going to run a program where I'll ask people to register 2-3 months in advance. And we'll use all these questionnaires, which I've been using, locus of control, interpersonal trust, etc. Maybe develop a new questionnaire. And I will ask them to register, ask them to assess themselves, ask other people to assess, etc. So first program we conducted, when we announced it, it's an unusual kind of a program. My colleague Pradeep Khandwala joined me with this. JP Singh, it was discussed in area, it was agreed. When we launched it, we wanted to take, because it's an intense program, only 20 people. We had about 70 applications. We decided we'll only take 20, but we'll run it 3 times. So the first program is the one where we had Chuk and all these people attended this. We ran the program. It was very successful because, I mean, the success is 2 months after I ran the program, somebody from Mr. Chuk's office calls me up and he says, we don't know what magic you have done, Professor Rao. We find a different MD in our office because he never listened to us. He's now listening to us. He now the HRD manager, those days I think he's L&D manager. He said, he is asking me to get some films which you have shown. So please give me a list of films. He never asked in his life for us to get these totally different kind of interest. Same thing with Gati. Mahendra Agarwal said, you come and give a talk to us. So we felt that this had an impact. Next batch we had Rishikesh Mafatlal. He wanted the entire company to be exposed. So it went on almost up till 1991, as long as I was here in IIM Ahmedabad. So this is later, after I left IIM in 94. I happened to attend a conference in Singapore in 1996. That is when I came across the entire methodology that I'm talking of has been Christian in the US. That is when I came across a book, I think it was written in 92 or something like that, 360-degree feedback. So then I started using it because leadership styles and organizational effectiveness is a little longish title and everyone in the US seemed to know it. Indians are also asking 360-degree feedback. That is the story of 360-degree feedback. That is how we started using 360. The methodology is what we have used. By the time I left IIM in 94, after my 21 years at IIM Ahmedabad had certain difficulties in running a program like this. The difficulty is IIM has its own norms and things. You can't run more than 1 or 2 programs in a year. So that means you can only train 40 people in a year. So you are, many people are wanting, then if you want, you can do it an in-house kind of a program. IIM doesn't encourage in those days in-house program. Now in-house programs are very much encouraged. And everything is paper and pencil. There was no IT help those days that are available. We used it to go feed manually. We had to send mails, paste envelopes. You need a RA who is going to take all the addresses, collect addresses, have questionnaires, feed the data into the computer. It's not like today. Everything can be done electronically. I think today the world has totally changed and so on. So that is what we use it to do. So that is the story of 360-degree feedback. Where we stand today is, I think we perfected the art and science of the process. And we are non-negotiable in the process. Number one, the feedback has got to be anonymous. It cannot be. Now, for example, I will tell you a very interesting kind of story. We were doing a 360-degree feedback for one company in Egypt. This particular company manufactures carbon black. And I'm sure some of you can guess what this. And we did it, and the vice president marketing there sought feedback, 360-degree feedback from 6 of his external customers. And the feedback forms were to be coming to Ahmedabad. We were located in Ahmedabad. We gave all the, so one day I get a call from this vice president, says, Professor Rao, you gave me an indication that out of the 6 people I have sent, my external customers, only 3 have responded. So tell me, I want to write to the remaining 3, who are the people who have not responded? I said, sorry, I can't tell you. I can only give you the number because that is the questionnaires we have. All 3 questionnaires we got have your name on it. And we don't know who has sent it because these have come from your external customers. He said, Professor Rao, I know that you will say this. That is why I'm telling you, sir, these 6 people are from 6 different countries. All that you need to do is to look at the stamps of the countries and tell me from which country I have got this feedback. And I immediately have to tell him, sir, our team is much smarter than this, because the fellow who separates and throws the envelopes and the fellow who puts it in we had a, like the post box, we have a post boxes where are all different. And they were thrown away on the day we received it. They all gone to the dustbin. Even if for some reason we have it, I'm going to tell you they are not available. So you mean to say that I have to foolishly write to all 6 people? Sorry, sir, you have to write to all 6 people to tell them, I have got 3. I don't know who of you have responded. Please, remaining all of you. This is to say the strictness with which you have to maintain anonymity. If you don't maintain the anonymity, if you tell an individual, I know a company in Bombay which did not maintain this and which got into disrepute. This particular company, a famous private sector company, one day asked me that as a result of 360-degree feedback, we have a lot of problems. We gave the feedback to the individuals. Now the different departments started fighting. I can't understand. I'm told you are an expert in this. Why don't you come and when I went there, I discovered the HR department passed on the 360-degree feedback to each person by not by name, because there is no name. They also didn't know the name. Candidate 1, it was sent to 3 of your colleagues. Colleague 1, he rated you this way. Colleague 2 rated you this way. Colleague 3 rated you this way. So I look at my ratings and I say, colleague 2 rated me all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 on a 5-point scale. That means this colleague has played the mischief. My rating has gone down. So who is this colleague? I know who this is. And he went and started taking it out on him. What made you? And that fellow never understood this. And there were a lot of conflict. And when I went and discovered, this questionnaire was not even given to this colleague. Because out of 6 colleagues, randomly 3 were chosen, and these are not one of those that were received. So the HR department did not know how to administer it, or they administered it for other kind of reasons and created. So we are very strictly, no way. You cannot give individualized feedback, and there is no way you can give boss feedback. If you are going to give boss feedback, you have to tell from the beginning the boss, your feedback is going to be given to you. Your identity will be revealed. And therefore, whatever you rate, keep in view. But our recommendation is, first time when you do it, do not reveal your identity, because it creates unnecessary kind of issues. So it's very sacred, and it's purely for development. And we normally tell companies, don't ask for data. Do not ask for data, because if you ask for data, it starts with suspicion. If you suspect, the entire thing is gone. So we are, I think, by and large, maintaining the 360 as for development purposes, leadership building, and leverage your strengths. And if you strictly follow it, I don't see any reason why people don't want to seek feedback. Vijay,
thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you very much for, actually, there are many things I was not familiar with, though as a student and as a serious researcher in this field, I have studied it all, but there were some stories which I was not familiar with, especially this story with the teachers in UP.
Yeah.
And it's an enlightening moment for me. So I think I will extend it. I have a personal interest in that. So I think I will extend it, and I'll make it more popular so that everybody knows it.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for giving this background information, and also the ethics of it, that if you don't do it properly, it's not going to be effective. I have received a lot of questions. I total like more than 20 questions I have. And while you were in the discussion, what I did is that basically I have put them as per themes. So if you allow, I'll ask you certain questions on behalf of the participants.
Sure.
And then we will take the discussion forward from there.
Yeah.
It was amazing overview, and it was also very clear at the beginning of it. You said it perfectly all right, that a lot depends upon how you are using it. If you use it bad, it is going to backfire.
Yes.
I remember in our school days, like in my early professional life, it used to say that an organization has to burn with 360 degree before it can get benefit. So I think that statement comes from there. is that most people will use it wrong if they are left to their own devices. But before I start going into the questions, I have some polls for
Yeah.
the audience.
Yeah.
So please, based on your understanding till now, and what is there is one which is related to purpose, another which is related to opinion. So I'm going to launch the poll number 2, which is related to purpose. So on your screen you will see these 6 questions, and you can select multiple. Um,
Are
this
you
is basically
using?
what you are doing right now. And so of course it will be applicable almost on 50% of the participants only, and not on all, because almost 50% said that they are not using it. And for them I always add an option, because
Not
my
using.
job is to design questionnaire. So I make sure that questions are asked in such a way that they are relevant for everybody, and there is an answer for everybody, and options are mutually exclusive. So we will wait for like 15 seconds more on this. Okay, 5 seconds more, and I will close the poll and share the result with you. Okay. Thank you. Share result. So this is the result from this second poll. Is
Very nice. I'm
that
very happy to see at least
yeah,
49% saying they're using it for development, and
development?
another
Yeah.
31% self-improvement. Uh,
So
Recruitment, promotion, and reward, I will strongly discourage. I would strongly discourage people from using it, because I mean, it again comes from our philosophy. Our philosophy is 360-degree feedback is as subjective as people are. It is subjective. This is number one. It's not objective. Americans say it is objective, but I say it is not objective. It is subjective. It is subjectivity of about, let us say, 10, 15, 13, whatever it is, people collected at a given point of time. It gives you feedback of the, not merely the impressions, but partly the expectations people have. You can't take expectations and disappointments as an indicator of your either performance or potential. It is only an indicative of the potential for development of an individual on those aspects. In fact, quite often when I prepare people for 360-degree feedback, I tell them, partly in a lighter way, partly in a serious way. I tell them, if on a 5-point rating scale, somebody rates you as 5 out of 5, and somebody else rates you as a 3 out of 5, whom should you thank? I normally say, you thank the fellow who said 3 out of 5, not the fellow who rated. Because the fellow who rated you 5 out of 5 is saying, you are meeting all my expectations, you are wonderful, you are great, you can't do anything better anymore further. That means he is saying, this is your saturation point, I have no great expectation from you. Whereas the 3 fellow is saying, I hold you at a high esteem, today you are at this level, can you move up to this? So a good friend is the one who gives you a low rating. This is what I tell them. So when you get negative ratings, don't think, now if this is the interpretation we are giving, how can you take the rating as an indication? If any, I think a high rating should be taken as this fellow has mesmerized everyone. So for recruitment, promotions, etc., it is not 360. But what I recommend is, after 360, if the fellow has mutually agreed targets, he goes through this, you can ask him an action plan. 1 through 360, we have spent some money on you. Tell us, what have you learned? What do you want to do? Suppose he says, I have learned nothing. There is nothing new in it. I am not going to do anything different. Fine. Forget about it. Somebody says, this is what I want to do different. You can evaluate. You agree with it. Make it a part of your KRA. Evaluate. It's not the 360. It is the actions that the individual has undertaken after this, where he communicated. So if you want to use that, you can use it maybe to recognize and so on. But personally, we are against using this for promotions and for recruitment and reward. Output of it, which is shown in terms of behavior change, This we are strict about it. If you follow Center for Creative Leadership, North Carolina, they also come up with the same thing. If you don't ever ask, in fact, in our MOU, we get a company to sign that we will not ask for the data, except in the recent past.
And sir, that leads me to the second poll question. So before you elaborate on that, I would like to launch this poll. This is about, it's a simple question with yes no answer. Should the firm that pays for 360-degree feedback collect the data on each individual? Means, should the firm be having access to who said what rather than what is being said? Oh, I'm overwhelmed by the number of questions that came. It's like more than 20, and I have categorized them into 4 categories. So I'll ask you as per that. We are going to extend. I think it will take like 15-20 minutes, 15 minutes more at least than our scheduled time. In 7 seconds, the poll will go off, and then I will share the result. Yep, and share result.
Well, this is very interesting, and I have to disappoint the 31 persons who say yes. I think I will tell these 41% of those who say yes, the firm which collects pays for the 360 data, should they collect the data on each individual? You will be doing the best possible damage to these individuals by collecting the data. The moment you know the individual data are going to be supplied to the company, and then individuals have a knack of putting up behaviors mainly during the 360 feedback time, or by and large showing behaviors which in order to get popularity. We are not like politicians in for this kind of, we are serious people, professional people, and so on. So I don't recommend, but there is a trick in the question you have asked, Vijay. Should the firm that pays for 360, why should the firm pay for your 360? If you are interested, don't get into. But if the firm pays for your 360 and the firm wants, then do all the manipulation that is possible.
Yeah, and this is what is happening, sir. I run like 4 to 6 360-degree assignments a year. And every time my client says that, okay, share me individual level data, I always refuse. It's a class, it's a non-negotiable term that I will share with you what was said. I will never share with you who said it.
Yes.
Because it's not only your credibility, it's a credibility of
who
the firm
said
also.
You are also not likely to know. But there are ways in which people are smart. They try to, like I can tell you many stories of how people try to find out. I appreciate your point, because in LinkedIn, I'll read out, I'm sure you all noted this.
Yes.
One of the persons made a comment saying something very interesting. I think very negative kind of a comment. This particular person said, experienced industries, consultants for media, entertainment, satellite TV, cable TV, cinema, online gaming, etc., etc. All of them have said that 360-degree feedback has created a lot of issues and created groupism, created a lot of other problems. It has gone out of fashion. Why are we talking about it? Okay, so that kind of a negative kind of a comment comes from these kind of experiences, because in the hands of, you have a knife which can be used for very positive purposes. You can also use it to cut your own head, cut the head of others, and things like that. It depends on the way the instrument is. So you are very right. And unfortunately, across the world today, everything has become commercialized. Even, when we use 360, it's not that we do it for free. We also have to make sure that we get compensated for it and so on. But there is a limit to which you can do the commercialization part. That's where you got into it. Understandable. Many HR managers say, I want to do 360 so that I can have it on my biodata. and my company says, so what is the point of doing it without giving this? So I think people do all kinds of things. I'm not into this. I don't agree with that, and I don't suppose that's the right thing.
Sure. And sir, that leads me to the first question from the audience side. Krishna Treya, who I know personally also, he's
Just short interruption. Having said that, some of the companies have said, but why should I pay for you? First of all, it's a paltry amount you're paying. At one time, we started a 360 club, 2,000 rupees, you get your 360 done. Now we offer online 360 for 7,500 rupees or something, which is part of it goes to the IT service provider, and so much of work that is to be done. Now I tell companies, when you say you are not investing any great deal, yeah, come on, I mean you would pay even more than this to your chaprasi. All right, it's a small thing you are doing. It's your L&D if you are committed. But if you are so keen, I would say ask the person after he goes through 360, his development plan. Please, that you are legitimate. As a HR manager, you can tell a person, please give me your development plan with very clear thing. What are you going to do and what help do you require from me? And let us review it. It can be a part of your KRS. Accountabilities can be established in many ways. Sorry, I have interrupted you.
That's fine, sir. No problem. And it added actually. Uh, so I have categorized questions into 4 different categories. One which are technical, and that I personally think of least importance. So they will take them first. And then there are some questions which are related to the procedure of it, then the ethics of it. That they are more important, so we'll take more time. So the first question is from Krishna Treya. What are your thoughts on a parallel style of questionnaire where raters rate multiple candidates at the same time, rather than, let's say, and this is, I know one company kind of wrote a big article on popularizing this kind of concept, that if you have 5 candidates to rate, you don't need to fill 5 forms. You take one form and then you rate 5 candidates on that form. By putting it parallelly, they call it kind of parallel rating, and they put it as an advertising thing. I wrote an article that saying that it's wrong. So I would like to know your opinion on this.
Very simple. What are you trying to do? What are you saving? In fact, you are creating unnecessary comparison. Ratings get biased, number one. Number two, I think it creates all kinds of other politics. The candidate who gets the feedback says, Professor, are you sure you are giving me my feedback? I hope you have not taken somebody else's feedback by mistake. All this kind of thing. I think you let us treat each individual with respect. I don't mind. I mean, in fact, I recommend to do different questionnaires for different people depending upon what that particular individual needs. Normally, when we go for second administration, we ask people to make their own questionnaire. Suppose you have gone through our first 360, which consists of 55 items, 10 items of style. There are about 130 items. So you say, Baba, it is too much of a questionnaire. First time, it is like when you go for diagnosis, you have put through all tests. Your blood tests, your blood sugar, all kinds of tests you have put through. You have to spend the day, executive medical checkup. Next time you go, you only want your sugar to be tested or your BP to be tested. So I say after 2-3 years, you want to test out, you make your questionnaire, pick up from my questionnaire whatever you want, and we authorize you can use it. Once you go through our tool, we say you own the tool. You make modifications, use it for yourself. You don't need to come back to us. Whereas Americans, of course, they say every time you administer, you have to pay maybe $5, $10. You say, no, it's your property. I can't take. So I would encourage people to develop their own tools, companies to develop multiple tools. You don't need to depend on this because it's a tool to help you to seek feedback on dimensions you value. Why should you seek feedback on dimensions I value? You come to my tool because I have 30 years of experience, standardized a tool. You don't want to develop a new tool. Many cases I find now these are the tools, choose items. Many times people come back and say, Professor, it was a comprehensive test. I said, drop some items here. You say 55 items, my God, you have said, drop any 25. They come back to add another 5 rather than 2. So, I mean, that is the way it is.
Yeah. So related to that is the second question, which is again on the procedure and technique. Can we use, it's from Siva Kumar, can we use 360-degree tool to identify potential of an employee And then if you and then the second question related to that is, what is the validity period for once a 360-degree is administered on an employee? So to what extent it is, to what period it is valid indicator of employee's potential?
Number one, first of all, second question I'll answer.
Hmm.
The 360 is meant to discover your strengths and work on them, leverage them. 360 is meant to discover if there are areas you can improve on them. If the purpose of 360 is improvement, if you have given me feedback today, 1 month from now I may be a different person. So how can you hold me? How can you hold my 360 conducted 1 month ago as an indicator of my potential? I'll just go to hell. You have not even understood the philosophy. So I don't recommend it to be used as a potential appraisal or anything like that. It is the individual who has to discover, exhibit. You use other methods of assessing your potential. It is only a tool to help the individual discover his potential, multiply it, use. Even there, I don't want to guarantee. The potential that you discover depends on the tool that I use. Okay? There is no guarantee that my tool is comprehensive to discover your potential. Maybe you may be a very good vegetable seller. I have used a totally different questionnaire. Like the other day, you found an MBA selling vegetables, and beautiful interview she has given. What are you saying? I am an IT professional, MBA. My company has thrown me out. I'm selling vegetables because I have to take care of my family. You should appreciate me. Why are you saying you are an MBA? How does it matter? I am doing the best thing. Most MBAs should do this.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I mean, tomorrow she may become the biggest distributor of vegetables and may become something wonderful. So you discover your potential, which is an individual development tool. That's the way we look at it.
So to summarize, like the focus of this 360-degree method is the individual. It is not about the organization system. That system will be changed and impacted, but it will start with the individual. So the focus has to be on the individual.
Yes, focus is on the individual, but only one small addition to what you have said. If suppose all your top management goes through this, okay, all your top management discover their critical style is high, and in our questionnaire we also measure the level of learning by juniors, and you discover learning and satisfaction of juniors is low. Now this is, we have tabulated the individual's data in the company and given the trend. We are not pointing out which individuals scored high. We are saying out of 50, out of 30 people that have gone through, 28 have critical style. So you must work on the leadership styles of people. It's about intervention. Okay. Now here the facilitator has got to be careful never to reveal individual data. The company asks, okay, Professor Rao, very nice, 28 candidates who have critical style. Give me the list of 28. I will train them. Why should I train 30? So I can tell them, sorry, sir, you announce the program for all 30. Those who want, they will come. Somebody may say, I am critical style, but I don't want to go through this program, which is fine. I mean, the entire approach is to respect the individual.
Perfect. And that leads to the second question by Juhi Shah. It's actually, I like it, very interesting question it is. How one can build, like as a professional, how we can contribute to build a culture where 360-degree is not treated with apprehension, because what she has observed is that the nature of the exercise, there is a lot of apprehension, and then how to create the real intention among leaders and make them understand to take it positively. Because I'm sure that she has seen the experience of it has been quite, apprehensive, and obviously for the
I think in this context, we have had many examples. Normally, I would say that educate people, convince them, and let them experience it for the first time. If you have sincerely done it, making sure anonymity, giving a good workshop, every person understands this. Experience is the only way you can build culture. The only illustration I can give is Birla Group, Aditya Birla Group. Dr. Santrupta Mishra should be credited. When he joined, I think, I'm sure most of you would know, around the time when Kumar Babu just took over, and he also joined them. And late 90s, 97, 98, when he started this. If you look at the culture of Aditya Birla Group, nobody would go for a 360-degree feedback. People would want, I mean, they're very, very much paternalistic kind of a culture. I'm sure most of you would have heard of it. In such a time, I think Santrupt educated people, and he simply said, "This is the methodology. I'm telling you, it's important. It's any one of you who are interested. I'm making this program available. You go through. It is purely voluntary." When he started, and he himself, I think he was telling, he himself was surprised about the number of people who volunteered. I mean, it's not a big number. He said he felt probably not even 5, 6 will volunteer. But we had about 25 to 30, and once one program was over, and it became a part of their internal kind of a thing. Now I think it's a part of life. And 360 also doesn't mean you keep doing and doing and doing. After some time, you make it a part of your life, put it on your internal this one, and anyone who wants initiate 360 gets the report and then works on it. The company doesn't even need to know about this. That is the way to which you can mature. So the best way is help people to experience, educate them, follow strictly whatever we are saying.
Thank you. So actually, sir, you answered also the Nitin Vazirani's question, which was about what kind of training is required, what can we do, and can you give me an example of an organization who has successfully implemented? So you just gave that. Thank you very much. There is one question from GB Rajendra Krishnan, and that is little about basically from the perspective of he says that in most cases, I find that juniors will not give right feedback, which will affect the assessment. In this case, because of him, how we can correct the system to get the change in the culture?
That's a very useful question. And in fact, I keep asking myself this question. If I administer 360 feedback, do I take everyone has given anything like an objective feedback? Not necessary. This is where I want to draw your attention to. In recent past, I mean, so many people have said this, but once again, we have heard Sadhguru saying this when he talks of this inner engineering. So one of the points I like it because again, either McClelland or you, the man who think at any of these books you look at, you are a product of your memory. Today, whatever we are, at a given point of time, if somebody is assessing you, he or she is drawing out from a memory, and we are subject to so many things. So at this point of time, my memory of you prompts me to say this, this, this. And this memory is also clouded by my immediate past anxieties. Somewhere down my heart of hearts, I have mistrust on you. I may have mistrust on the HR department. I can't say that what rating I have given is a purely objective kind of a rating. The rating is a mixture of so many kind of factors. So when I as a facilitator deliver to the person a particular rating, I would tell him to interpret it with a pinch of salt. This is indicative and this is provocative. You are fully at freedom not to agree with this. Suppose you say, no, I got a low rating. I think these people are mistaken. I'll say, yeah, you probably are right. They are mistaken. But let me tell you, what can you do so that people are not mistaken in future, next time? So the way I look at it is, I don't expect, in fact, as I began by saying, 360 is as subjective as anything. It's a tool to provoke you to change, take whatever suits you, use it for your advantage. 360 tool should be used by an individual for his advantage. Now, suppose you got very good ratings and you want to tom-tom it. Do it. You got very bad ratings. You don't want to tom-tom it. Up to you. There are people who build credibility. I'm sure you heard this great article written by Vineet Nair long ago. I think he became famous when he wrote this book, People First, rather than, I think, before that, Marketing First. Then I think he said People First. He got Harvard, in HCL. One of the things Vineet claimed to have done After he got his 360-degree feedback, he posted it in the website so that everyone knows. But what is to be there? This is what you fellows, I asked you to give, you have given, collectively I am putting it. And he also posted what he wants to do. And later he extended it to a larger number of people, say what you want to do. So I think these are all innovations you can do. Managers should be able to use it in different kind of ways. You are not going to. So this is, don't expect perfect objectivity either from the boss or subordinates or anyone. It's a tool to make you think. If it has served your purpose, you thought about it, you come up with various hypotheses, because 360 provokes you. The rest of the life is there to discover. It's your choice what you want to discover, what you don't want to discover. What you, I have come across many cases. For example, let's say when I took 360 first, in IIM I didn't need 360. You know the reason why? Because students collected feedback and posted in the blackboard, posted in a magazine, which is distributed in the entire campus. Any term I taught, my feedback by students, anonymous feedback, because students organize themselves as groups, and does he come well prepared to the class, does he answer the questions, okay, how thorough is he available outside, etc. All 10 items are posted across the campus. It's known. And once in 3 years, I was evaluated by the director. He called, there is a committee. Okay, you are doing well on research, you are not doing well, you are doing too much teaching, etc., etc. I mean, these are their views, they talk about it. And I didn't need. But once I'm out of IIM, as honorary director of the Academy of HRD, I sought 360-degree feedback from a number of people. And I was stunned when I got my feedback. I thought I am a visionary, I have a lot of consistency, I am very objective. And here people tell me, you are very inconsistent, unreliable, heavily biased. And I had a few sleepless nights because it just didn't fit into my. Then I started thinking, well, I'm so participative, and yet people are telling me, you pretend to be participative, but you do what you want to do. So it is only when I became sensitive, I discovered my style of asking questions is what made a difference. I ask a question to somebody, and he gives a point. I note this. I ask the same question with the additional point to another person. By the time I ask the fifth fellow, the question itself has changed. So at the end of it, when I come up with a decision, everyone thinks this fellow comes and asks us, but he does what he wants to do. So it took a long time for me to understand my intention is right, but the way I am functioning is not right. So therefore, I started calling people and acknowledging everyone. I asked this question, you said this, this is the decision. I want to thank all of you. Now, anything do you want to add collectively? You change your style. It's not to say this is the best style. Again, you have to. So it's a continuous process of learning. That's the way I learn.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think this is a lesson for most of us, many of us, which is like, intention is one thing it's necessary to have, but also need to check whether your intention is communicated properly through your actions, speech and actions or not. And I remember my guru's talk on this, like every time I talk to him about intention, and he says that just because you are good does not mean that you deserve more respect.
Absolutely.
So you have to also like he gives example of Mahabharata all the time, is that when the Yudhishthir goes to heaven and he finds Kaurav there sitting and enjoying, he always said that the rule of earth will not apply here. Just because you were good here, there, and the earth doesn't mean that you will be treated with high respect here in the heaven. So thank you very much, sir. And I think Kalakesh, Shruti, and Arjun, I think your questions were answered in that. In case if not, I have allowed everybody to unmute. So in case if it is not answered, please unmute and speak. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next question, because they are very similar questions. Same on the culture building. What is the role of, what should I do to create a culture in which my juniors will give me honest feedback and not some kind of motivated feedback. So I'll move on to, yes.
Surajit Senji has unmuted. Maybe you have a question to ask.
Sure.
No, I have no. Okay. I have no question to ask. I just thought of hearing, or if anything spontaneously I have to say. That's why I unmuted.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll move on to the question of Sheila Vishwanath. This is again little on technical side of it. Can we ask for categories? For example, what did direct reports say versus what the supervisor said? This is sometimes required when very obvious common
We
things
do
are
that.
not emerging.
We do that. Not only ask, and nowadays we do say, except the rule we follow. If there is only one person in a category, he will be combined with another category. That's only.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's very useful.
Yeah, and you covered this in your talk. You talked about it. Thank you. Nikhil's question is, what care should be taken in if an HR team wants to develop 360-degree feedback tool internally on their own without any external assistance? I have a question before on this. I have a poll on this, I think. I feel very happy that, we kind of imagined what could be the question and created poll on this. So just to fulfill my ego, I have launched this poll. Yeah. Should organization develop their own 360-degree tool and use it? And of course, no means that they should not develop it on their own and they should buy it from third parties. Yeah, in fact, this is also one area where, which I think has been responsible for a lot of bad practice, is over standardization of the tool itself. So there has been a trend of over standardization of 360 tool itself, and that has led to many misuses of the tool, in that sense that, as you were saying, that it is important that the person selects what he wants to be evaluated on, what he wants to get a feedback on. And a worldwide standardized tool is not going to help you with that process. It will evaluate you on some criteria which are even irrelevant, could be irrelevant to your setting. So the poll has ended, and I will now share the answer. Here it is. So 80%, we have a Pareto distribution here, 80-20.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I'm happy to see this particular thing. Only caution I would make is that you should have mature people who experienced the 360-degree feedback to design the tool. I think the tool is only a small part of the whole thing. I think the process you must understand. If you have people who have understood this, it doesn't matter if it is HR or somebody else, they can do that. So I'm happy to see a large number saying organizations should have their tools. I don't believe there is anything like a standard tool. We have, from our experience, we have a standard tool. We say it's a standardized with RSDK model. In fact, we have even say that this is our copyrighted model. But having said that, it is available freely everywhere. So we're not the ones who would go to. So this is simply to say that we have years of experience, and there is nothing like norms and all that. But if somebody wants norms, we can give the norms. We can give percentages. Because imagine 25,000 people, if not all of them have gone through one to similar kind of tools. In fact, I conducted a research study. That's where, can I share my screen for a minute?
Sure, sir.
I can do this.
In fact, it was so interesting that we almost forgot about your PowerPoint.
Can you see this screen?
Yes. Yes.
So this particular book, 100 Managers in Action, it is out of print, but may be available from McGraw-Hill now, because Tata McGraw-Hill has come to McGraw-Hill. After about 15,000 managers we have done, we maintain data. We maintain all our data from 97 onwards, from first program till now. We maintain this, and we normally ask them, we want to do research. What we have done was, we looked at the top scorers across our maybe 15 years of experience. Those who have scored above certain percentage in 360-degree feedback, and we identified 300 out of 8,000 cases. And we contacted these 3,000 people who we say, we call them as, you can call them as 360-degree top performance. I mean, having said all subjective, etc., this is only notional. We wanted to know the stories. because leadership is defined, you look at anything as art and science of impacting large number of people. So those people who had an impact, similar impact on juniors, seniors, etc. And we studied these 100 managers to find what is common among those people who scored high on 360. That is what is written in this book. It reinforces our model. And we also, both Raju and I have this book. Incidentally, Raju has done his PhD with MSc University Baroda on the power of 360, where he discovered the tool we have 4 parts of the tool: roles, styles, delegation, and qualities. And his surprising finding was that qualities did not differentiate star performers from average performers. Styles overall did not differentiate star performers, but every single role differentiated star performers. That means those who are star performers have been rated high on vision and values, managing colleagues, managing seniors, etc. 55 items, most of these items. This is the first PhD. The data are given, the questionnaire for NGOs are given. They are all given in this particular kind of thing. And the other thing I would want to say, as you change the slide.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. This is the most important part of our 360 feedback. It is based on practically, the 360 tells you how much you know, self-assessment is also known to others. How much of what you think you are is also shared by other people. And how much of what you know about you is not known to others. So it is you think you are very good, you are a visionary, but other people have not seen this. The impact is you have not expressed yourself enough. We don't want to say you don't have vision. You are not expressing yourself enough. That is the way we look at it. So it tells you how much have you hidden. You have a talent, but others don't know. And how much others know, you are not aware. And 360 doesn't tell you undiscovered self. That only
that
when
we,
you
that we discover in TGroup and all
other kind of
therapy sessions.
That is what we talk. Okay, so this is what we say. This is a self-discovery tool and so on. I'm not going into the other parts of it. That is what it is. I'll stop.
Maybe we can share with participants later on a PDF version of the presentation as a take-home kind of.
Yeah, you have it with you. You can send it across to them if you have.
Yeah.
Or if you send the mail IDs, I can send them some other literature also.
Sure, sure. Definitely, I'll share with you the list.
My colleague is Akila Krishnan. Akila, are you there?
Yes, bro.
Yeah,
I'm here.
and that's very nice of her. She put the in the chat that people who are interested into, they can go to perfectprofessional.in website, and also she.
Akila, why don't you show? ID. Can we have a look at you? How do you look? Besides the TVRLS logo. That is Akila.
Thanks, Akila.
Okay.
Okay, so
hello, Vijay sir.
Hi. So before we close, just last 2 questions. One is from Sushil and another is from Balaji. Both are similar questions, so I will club them together. It's again on the technique of it. If 360-degree tool is used for assessment, and suppose we have just one leadership position, where the comparison is going to come from? And
unanswered, don't use for assessment.
Yeah. I
okay, complete the question. I mean, that's my bias. My bias. Suppose the question is, if you want to use for assessment, so where is the comparison coming from? You have some candidates.
So,
I understand, interpret the question in a different way. I want to fill the leadership position. I only have one candidate. Can I use 360-degree feedback to prepare him for that position? Okay, that's a better way of putting it. The individual seeks 360-degree feedback. The data are known to him, not shared with the company. Okay, suppose Vijay, you are the candidate. You are the only one. You are being promoted from MD to chairman of the company. Right? Let's say. So you go through, my recommendation will be, you go through 360-degree feedback. A tailor-made tool for competency is required to be a chairman, administered
which
by
matters at that
which
position,
matters outside agency. and the feedback is given to you, not to your company. And then you prepare an action plan. The choice is yours. You can tell your company, I went through this 360-degree feedback. I discovered these are the qualities which are suitable in me for chairman's job. But these are 2-3 qualities which I need to cultivate. I am going to cultivate this in the next 2-3 months, etc. You can have a dialogue with your team. So, but it is entirely your responsibility. And you have a choice to fake also. Because you may get entirely different kind of feedback. You can tell your board, I went through this feedback and I am told to be a visionary. I am told I am a result-driven person. Everything you can say. Suppose you fake, okay? You told wrong. You gave wrong things to your committee. Let us assume for a minute, you faked your 360 and told your top management, your board, I have all these qualities. Now I am ready to be chairman. What does it do to you tomorrow?
It will enhance the
it will at least
span of your failure.
Well, not necessary.
Like if you
it depends on you.
If you get success, that's fine. If you success,
no, it's not the question of you getting success.
The gap will be big.
I have told my board that my 360-degree feedback has indicated I am a visionary. My board may not think that I am a visionary, but I told them that I am a visionary. My people also didn't say that actually I am a visionary. They didn't say that. I have fake. I am a fake visionary appointed as chairman. Right? So what am I going to do? How much time do I require for people to find out, yeah, you told you are a visionary, I don't find vision here. So at least if I am a sensible fellow, I will try to learn to be a visionary. I'll try to develop. It is to my advantage to prove what I told you is correct. Okay, in another way, suppose I said I am an emotionally stable person, but my feedback is I am short-tempered. I know in the heart of hearts I am short-tempered, but I told everyone my feedback shows I am stable. So I will at least pretend to be. Now this is where, as a psychologist, I'll come back to the behavior theory, that if you try to practice a particular behavior, which you desire to practice, you show to people that you want to practice, in all likelihood, it will get internalized over a period of time. That is entire. So I am not worried. If somebody fakes the 360 and puts up, I am a great guy, fine, yeah, come on, prove yourself. Because the world is looking at your greatness in other dimensions. It's not over. Nobody is going to just rely on your 360. If somebody only relies on 360, they are being foolish. That's what I'll say. So it does positive damage. I am not unhappy with that. So I would put the question, I would say, don't use it for assessment, but should you use it for assessment, make it voluntary, make it a tailor-made tool, make the individual to take responsibility.
Thank you, sir. That was very, I was reminded of that statement by one of our university professors. I'm telling you 100 times that I don't get irritated. Yeah. So that leads me to last question. Sir, just one more question, last one. Most 360-degree, it is a question from Balaji Rangnathan. Most 360-degree tool use numeric scale or agree-disagree type scale. So numeric scale he meant by that Likert scale. Is it possible to use behaviorally anchored rating scale for 360-degree? What are the pros and cons of this kind of?
No, behaviorally you can use, as long as you develop a scale with certain purpose, and you think that behaviorally anchored rating scale would serve my purpose well in a particular situation, you can do that. Suppose you are talking of resilience. You want to test resilience. Okay, you develop a behaviorally anchored rating scale to test resilience, agility, persuasiveness, etc., etc. And you put the behavior anchors and ask the people to tick mark whatever is the kind of a thing. I think it's a method of scaling. And depending on your comfort level, I don't see any reason why you can't use it. And I am not always in favor of SNO, except in certain items. We know we do SNO in delegation. Either delegates or does not delegate. I mean, we use multiple methods actually. We use bipolar adjectives for qualities. We use paired comparison for, it's actually 3 statements compared for leadership styles. And we use a 5 or 7 point rating scale for votes. And delegation only yes, no. Tick mark, don't tick mark. So we also think that is a good way to provide a variety. Our RSDQ model, which is given in this book, which I have just shown, I think we use these kind of things. It is up to you to use it. Okay, a lot of questions. I enjoyed these questions. I must thank you for providing this opportunity. I'm happy to see
we
that.
are very thankful to learn a lot of backstories of 360-degree, how it started. And I'm sure that this conversation will move on and it will be bigger on the social media, especially on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for spending time with us. And I just noticed that we are like 1 hour 36. So it's
Well,
that's so nice. Yeah.
Professors like me enjoy talking. And here
It was great to listen to you, sir. It's amazing. Thank you very much for your time. And we will be connected. We will be sending you, all the participants who are there, we will be sending you the PDF version of the PPT which was shared here. With you, sir, I'm going to send the list of participants so that you can send them the
we can send the other material. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening.
Please, before leaving the session, please drop your feedback. I also want a feedback on me, and like I would not say I want a feedback on Rao sir, because he has already gone through a lot of TGroup 360-degree everything.
Vijay,
but I would definitely look forward.
Vijay, if you permit, I can add.
Sure, please, sir.
Definitely, it is a great moment because you organized such a beautiful event, and particularly for the participant, it is great experience to again, that listen Professor Rao. So the story or the history which he narrated, I always wonder why we Indians are not able to develop any original HR concept. And I have been arguing whatever is there in America, we just start following, and that is happening everywhere. But at least Professor Rao again proved that we have actually forgotten our past, our history. And if Professor Rao kind of personality is there, it is our unfortunate actually experience. We are not able to expand or share all these learnings. So really very thankful, Professor Rao, from my end. And Vijay also, I am very happy that first time I am listening. In last 3-4 months, I never listened to anyone, but I am lucky I was waiting for the day at least again I will be listening Professor Rao. So thanks, Professor Rao. Namaskar to you.
Thank you very much, Shashi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. So I'm going to formally end the meeting now. And yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to all. Wonderful. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.